You spent a good portion of your time in Ohio the other day trashing John McCain. Senator John McCain is dead. Why are you doing this?
So it's not a good portion of my time. It's a very small portion. But if you realize about 3 days ago, it came out that his main person gave to the FBI the fake news dossier. It was a fake. It was a fraud. It was paid for by Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. They gave it to John McCain, who gave it to the FBI for very evil purposes. That's not good. And the other thing, he voted against repeal and replace.
But, Mr. President, he's dead. He can't punch back. I know you punch back,
no,
but he's dead.
I don't talk about it. People ask me the question. I didn't bring this up. You just brought it up. You asked the question.
Well, you talked about it this week.
You asked me the question. When I went out yesterday to the scrum, they asked me the question. When they asked me the question, I answered the question. But you people bring it up. I don't bring it up.
That just makes me think the dossier is true.
Well, no, what it makes me think, actually, is that he really is losing his mind, because if he weren't losing his mind, just stay with me if you're a Trump supporter.
Ooh, that'll be hard.
Did the president forget that he tweeted about it on his own this past weekend? Did the president forget that he was talking to a pro-military audience in Ohio?
Yeah.
And he brought up, because my dear friends who were Trump supporters, either the president's losing his mind and he can't remember what he said earlier this week, or he's a liar. I would not jump to either conclusion myself right now. I'm just your faithful and humble servant on the show, but there really is no choice. He is either a liar or he's losing your mind. You pick the box.
No, but I actually think...
You know what? I just gave you the facts.
Yep.
You decide.
I think there's a whole stress-induced distraction thing going here. But it brings up a real question, and we're going to show the soundbite of him bringing it up at a speech. But, you know, I was approached yesterday by a very smart, attractive woman who works and was traveling for work, and she was just absolutely committed to loving Trump. Mm-hmm. And she kept kind of attacking me in an incredibly rude and threatening way. But the fervence was something that we have to look at. Well, because I don't understand someone who can love someone who would do this to John McCain.
First of all, let me just say that. Without mentioning where we saw this person, I think that person was inspired a bit.
It's a large group, yeah.
By what that person had been imbibing over the past couple of hours. That's all I'm going to say.
But
anyway,
still.
It happens. But anyway, so the president blames the media, but it's plain to see, again, that either he forgot about or he is lying about the fact that he has been attacking a dead man without any prompting this past week, starting with a tweet on Saturday about the stains on the late senator's record, and no one brought it up to him when he segued to criticize John McCain for 5 minutes. I'm thinking, if I have forgotten that I attacked John McCain for 5 minutes 2 days ago, I'm going to a doctor. Say, Doc, hey, you know, I just said yesterday that I never brought it up myself, that I only respond. I mean, either that or I just have to quietly admit, if I'm Donald Trump, that I'm lying to myself and 300 million people. Here's Donald Trump
for those with
talking for 5 minutes at an economic speech in a tank factory Wednesday in Ohio.
I endorsed him at his request, and I gave him the kind of funeral that he wanted, which as president I had to approve. I don't care about this. I didn't get thank you. That's okay. We sent him on the way, but I wasn't a fan of John McCain.
It gets so tiresome. Yes, the President of the United States is also lying or is ignorant. My fellow Trump supporters, my friendly Trump supporters, my fellow Americans who are Trump supporters, not fellow, the National Cathedral is actually saying Donald Trump's lying. He didn't approve McCain's funeral services. In a statement to NBC News, the cathedral says all funerals and memorial services at the cathedral are organized by the family of the deceased. Only a state funeral for a former president involves consultation with government officials. No funeral, Donald. Hey, Donald. Hey, Donald, that's right. I'm talking to you, Donald. I'm talking to you.
But he doesn't watch.
Every day. It's like it's like what the little boy says to his mother at the end of The Sixth Sense. Every day. Every day. Of course, Mika wouldn't understand this reference because she didn't see The Sixth Sense. I've got her on Godfather, Sixth
This is
Sense.
true.
I know.
Mika.
I'm working on it
I
this
saw
weekend.
The Godfather.
I'm working
This
on it
weekend.
But anyway,
Yes.
this weekend.
Yes.
This weekend. What a movie. Oh,
No.
the ring goes
Come
on.
on, not gonna
Anyway,
watch it.
no funeral at the cathedral. None requires the approval of the president. You getting this, Donald? Or any other government official. And that said John Meacham. Even though Donald Trump had nothing to do with it being at the National Cathedral, Cindy McCain still sent out Rick Davis to thank Meadowlark Lemon, Santa Claus,
Meadowlark.
Bob Hope.
Stop.
No!
You're-
To thank, I'm showing my age, to thank. There are so many people under 40 going, huh? To thank.
Under 50.
Kurt Flood? No! To Irving R. Levine? No!
Oh my God, Irving R.
thank-
Levine, NBC News,
To thank
Washington.
Donald Trump. The family asked for Trump to be thanked by Rick Davis. So literally everything he has said about the funeral is a lie. That's all I got.
You can go now, John.
By the way, I gotta say, Meacham, I'm on to you. I'm on to you.
God.
Let's do a split with Willie. Can you put Willie up?
Oh my God.
Willie? You know in Top Gun how Maverick and Goose are talking about, they have this, hey, you don't fly by the tower, don't buzz the tower,
Yeah, don't
right?
buzz the tower,
Because
yeah.
they're cool. They're cool. Negative Ghost Rider.
pattern is
They
full,
buzz the
yeah.
tower, right?
Right.
Because very macho thing to do. You and Meacham comes up to you in his flight suit, right? Before the show. And what does he say to you, Maverick? What's he going to do in the first block to prove how cool he is?
You heard about this. So in the
I
makeup
did.
room, here's a little look behind the curtain.
This is true. Yeah.
John Meacham made a reference to Fortinbras from Hamlet.
Yes.
And everyone in the makeup room, including myself, we sort of glazed over because we didn't understand the context for what he was saying. And then as we
Well,
walked
because
out, he
Meacham
said,
started talking.
I'm going to get a Fortinbras reference into the show. Well, you may have noticed at 6:05 this morning, John Meacham dropped a Fortinbras on the table, and it actually somehow made sense in the context of the Carter Millay
And
speech.
that's what upsets Willie
It's a
the
gift.
most.
Yeah.
That's what, because it actually shed light for the life of the nation. Yeah.
No. What upsets Willie the most is what a dork he has to sit next to on the set.
That is fair. That is fair.
No,
But
that's
you
harsh.
I'm
know,
looking at 3 dorks.
I'm just
Hey.
joking. There are
No,
three
Mika,
pretty dorks
Mika.
all in a row.
but you see, the drama of Willie's life is
boy.
not having gotten into Sewanee back in the 90s
Yes.
and going to Vanderbilt.
here we go.
And see, he's been trying to
right, guys.
overcompensate with pedestrian safety. What were you saying?
Speaking of
John
overcompensation,
McCain. John McCain.
Speaking of overcompensation, let's talk about John McCain.
John McCain.
Everything the president has said
God.
about John McCain, his attacks on John McCain,
Sure.
and the funeral itself, all lies.
Sure.
All on videotape, all in statements, all lies.
Sure, but here's what I agree, of course. What I think this fits into, and it's a fun category to play with, is the Lester Holt category, where Trump just actually cops to
Says it.
everything, right? So he copped to obstruction of justice
That's correct.
to Lester
Oh,
Holt,
my God.
right? He said to, was it Maria? I'm doing this because he gave the dossier to the FBI. So we don't have to wonder anymore about what this is. We can talk about the bone spurs in Vietnam, and that's certainly part of the ethos. But I promise you, if somebody else had done this and had died and had been lionized, and remember the McCain funeral. With all honor to Senator McCain, the McCain funeral was one of the great acts of ceremonial trolling.
It really was.
In American history. It was ecclesiastical trolling.
It was wonderful.
Which is not a huge category. And I didn't say I was going to say that, Willie.
But good.
So I think we just now know. If he follows the headline,
Scratching my head
did he
now.
watch the funeral? Did he watch any of it? Does he know that
No.
Meghan
Yes.
McCain?
No.
Okay, then he saw Meghan
No.
McCain and
No.
a very powerful eulogy. He understands that was a moment where the whole world that he both resents, hates, and longs for their approval, which is the permanent culture of the Acela corridor, right, was either at the cathedral or nodding along at the cathedral. And he's sitting there thinking, and this SOB kicked this thing to the FBI. So we now don't have to wonder. Again, this is like having X-ray glasses into Richard Nixon. I mean, if Nixon had just put the tapes out in real time. So I don't think we have to think that hard about it. We have to figure out what to do about it. But I think he basically makes the problem itself fairly straightforward.
Makes it very simple. Willie, the thing is, though, in this case, it's kind of like when somebody that he really hates puts out a book. Or when he talks about our show. And the next day, everybody goes, wow, I want to watch that show.
Yeah.
And the numbers explode. He says we're having our worst year ever. We're having our best year ever, actually. We've had our best year ever for the past several years. And we want to thank Donald Trump for attacking us, because after he attacks us, more people watch.
And then I get more people to follow Devin Nunes' cow.
And Devin Nunes' cow, exactly. Over 500,000 now.
Oh, way over.
Way over. And also, Willie, though, it's like he attacks these people that put out books. All he does is drive book sales. And in this case, he is attacking a war hero and a public servant. And as Meghan McCain said, and as anybody would tell him, as his staff is trying to tell him, you're not hurting John McCain here, Donnie. You're hurting yourself. It's mind-boggling that he doesn't understand that. That in the grand sweep of history, and even in polling, he's hurting himself.
In the case of McCain, even his own supporters are telling him that. Lindsey Graham said that finally. He said, I don't think this helps the president whatsoever. We should add, by the way, to the honor roll of Republicans, Dan Crenshaw, Congressman Crenshaw of Texas, who came out yesterday very clearly and said, knock it off, Mr. President. Stop going after John McCain. There's the humanity of it, that if your child ever attacked someone who had passed away, you would put them in their room without dinner for the night and teach them a lesson. And then there are the facts of it, which are that John McCain gave that information, the dossier, after the election. President Trump claims he did it before the election to put Hillary Clinton in office. So he's got his facts wrong. They're easily discovered facts. They're facts in some cases that happened yesterday and we can play on the show. But Donald Trump plows ahead with his attacks on a dead war hero.
So everything you're saying makes sense, all of you, except I don't think he's thinking about it this much. I think he does what he needs to do, even if it's putrid, to deflect. Because right now he's so squeezed from finding out that Cohen was being investigated long before the raid. Jared now being squeezed for the way he communicates with world leaders. The Mueller report coming, whether or not the AG is going to stand by him. My God, the list goes on. All the witches, all the people who still might flip.
By the way,
I think this would cause somebody to be desperately flailing, and that's what I think all this McCain stuff is.
By the way, so far in the Mueller investigation, in the so-called witch hunt,
so many.
My Trumpian friends, 200 federal charges.
So many.
200 federal charges of witches. Yeah. Crimes committed by witches.
Well, imagine
in this witch hunt. And while we're talking about federal crimes, Clint, we got to go to break.
Yeah.
Alex been screaming we got to go to break.
He's screaming. Yeah.
Really? So, please forgive me for one more question, Alex. I know not what I do, but Clint, how in the world does the FBI not have an investigation open today? Open this very morning.
On Mr. WhatsApp.
On a guy who Donald Trump told me during transition and has told so many other people would be the de facto Secretary of State. A man making communications with a world leader who murdered a Washington Post journalist after torturing him and then sawed him up to bits. How does the FBI not start that investigation today, given what they did with Hillary Clinton for a year and a half?
Yeah, well, it just goes to reinforce those things we were hearing about, concerns from the agencies about Jared Kushner's security clearance, if you remember. And we don't know that they don't. You know, maybe they are looking into these things, but I think ultimately those investigations tend to originate in Congress. It would be one of the intelligence committees that would push that. And it's interesting, just 6, maybe even 7 months ago, you saw some bipartisan support to look into these things. You know, I think it was maybe Jason Chavez or, you know, some of the Republicans were talking about, hey, we need to set some standards around this. We can't go and say lock her up and then not follow this up when somebody else is doing something very similar. So if there isn't one started, I wouldn't be surprised if one does get started, especially if it keeps pushing from the Hill.
All right, Clint Watts, thank you very much. And still ahead, in 2016, Donald Trump lost the popular
Boy, he
vote,
got wiped out. 3
but
million,
won
almost
the Electoral College.
3 million votes he lost by.
Senior Republicans are expecting a repeat in 2020, plus new fundraising concerns for Joe Biden. Some top Democratic donors might not be there for him if he decides to make a White House bid. Those new pieces of reporting ahead. There's a lot going on. We're back in just a moment.
Cow, it's like popcorn popping without the top on.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.